It's a 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. And for one lucky finder, it wasn't just spare change, it was life-changing money. A man in his 60s, a lifelong mechanic from Ohio, is cleaning out an old dresser his late father used for storing spare bolts and washers. Inside a dusty glass jar, buried beneath a tangle of keys and screws, he spots a dull copper coin. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't special, but something about it made him pause. That tiny hesitation would turn into the biggest financial shock of his life. He almost tossed it aside, but on a hunch, he took it to a coin shop. The dealer squinted, reached for a magnifying glass, and went silent. After a few tense moments, the dealer whispered, "Do you know what you have here?" That penny was about to make headlines. The year was 1979. Jimmy Carter was president, disco was fading, and the U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But here's where it gets strange. 1979 was a year when Philadelphia did not mark its pennies with a P. That's right, no mint mark. Most of these no mint mark coins were perfectly ordinary, except for a handful that had a nearly invisible, devastating minting flaw. That flaw is what turned an everyday coin into a $1 million miracle. The mistake? A rare double-dia verse, where the date and lettering were accidentally struck twice, slightly off-center. Under the right light, Liberty, and the date 1979 seemed to have a ghostly shadow. It's subtle. So subtle that 99% of people would never notice it. And that's why these coins can slip through decades of circulation completely undetected. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a high-profile auction, one of these rare 1979 no-mint mark pennies sold for over $1.1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. Suddenly, people everywhere were emptying jars, ripping open drawers, and checking every penny they had. One moment you're holding what you think is a 1-cent coin, the next you're holding a ticket to financial freedom. For that Ohio mechanic, the money paid off his house, erased every debt, and gave him the freedom to retire early. And it all started with a coin most people wouldn't bother to bend down and pick up off the street. Not every 1979 no-mint mark penny is worth millions. Most are still just 1 cent. The fortune is in the details. The doubled lettering, the sharpness of the strike, and the near-perfect condition all have to line up. If the coin is scratched, worn, or damaged, the value can plummet. One tiny nick could mean the difference between a $1 million payday and pocket change. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, but they aren't easy to find. Many believe that most of them are still out there, hiding in sock drawers, coffee cans, and piggy banks. And that's what makes the hunt so thrilling, because your next grocery store penny could be the one. First, check the date, 1979, no mint mark under the date. Then, with a magnifying glass, look closely at the word Liberty and the numbers in the date. If you see doubling, faint but visible, you could be holding a jackpot. Also, examine the condition. The fewer scratches and the sharper the details, the more valuable it can be. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Yours could too. The next time you see a 1979 penny, don't just toss it in a jar. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's a 2008 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, something millions of Americans have probably handled without ever realizing its secret. It all started in the final years before the Lincoln penny's design was set to change forever. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins each year, churning them out at a breakneck pace. But somewhere in that ocean of copper-plated zinc, a rare mistake slipped through. A tiny detail, or rather, the absence of one, transformed a 1-cent coin into one of the most sought-after treasures in modern coin collecting. No mint mark. Just the date, 2008. Collectors were shocked when the first example surfaced. At first, it looked like any other 2008 penny you'd find rolling around at the bottom of your purse or stuck between couch cushions. But a closer inspection revealed the truth. It wasn't struck in Philadelphia on purpose. This coin had an error so unusual, it sent dealers scrambling to verify it. When they did, The bidding wars began. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, this tiny disc of metal, weighing barely more than a gram, crossed the kind of price threshold no one saw coming. More than $1 million for a penny. Not a gold coin. Not a silver dollar. A penny most people would have left in a take-a-penny dish at a gas station. The answer lies in rarity and history. You see, mint marks tell you where a coin was made: D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and none for Philadelphia. But 2008 was a strange year. The U.S. mint systems were in transition, and quality control was tight. Mistakes like this weren't supposed to happen. Yet somehow, a batch of coins meant for a specific minting process lost their mark entirely, slipping into circulation like ghosts among the billions of ordinary pennies. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because even among era coins, this one is a phantom. Many experts believe only a tiny handful exist in collectible condition, and fewer still in the pristine, untouched state that drives values through the roof. One collector's story became legend. He found his 2008 no-mint mark penny and change from a fast food drive-thru. He nearly tossed it into a coin jar without a second glance. But something made him pause, maybe the crisp strike, maybe the unusual shine. He looked closer, saw no mint mark, and his heart skipped. Within weeks, that penny was sitting under bright auction house lights, with phone bidders from around the world competing for it. When the hammer fell, the price tag read over $1.2 million. Most people wouldn't recognize this coin if it were staring them in the face. They'd spend it, drop it, or let it disappear into the background noise of daily life. That's why this story matters. Because it means that right now, somewhere in America, another one could be out there, in someone's tip jar, in a child's piggy bank, maybe even in your pocket. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 2008 no-mint mark penny must be examined carefully. Look at the date on the front. If there's no D or S beneath the year, and the coin is in exceptional condition, with sharp edges, strong detail, and no signs of heavy wear, you might be holding a fortune. Be wary of worn-down mint marks that have simply faded over time. True no-mint mark coins are struck that way from the beginning. Collectors advise using a magnifying glass and good lighting. Compare it to other 2008 pennies you have. The absence of a mint mark should be complete, not faint. And if you think you found one, don't clean it. Ever. Even a single scratch from a cloth can drop the value by thousands. Have it authenticated by a reputable grading service before you even think about selling. The truth is, finding one of these is like winning a lottery you didn't know you were playing. And the reward? Enough to change your life. That's why coin hunters are checking every penny, every day, hoping to find the next one. Imagine the moment you're sorting through change, maybe half distracted, when you see it, that date, 2008, sitting there without a mint mark. Your pulse quickens. You remember this story? You realize this tiny piece of metal might be your $1 million miracle. The year was 2011. America was still recovering from the recession. Pennies jingled in coffee shop tills, sat forgotten in car cup holders, and rolled under couch cushions. Nobody gave them a second thought. But somewhere deep inside the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. A rare and costly mistake slipped past every layer of inspection, stamping out a tiny handful of Lincoln pennies unlike any other. For months, these coins left the mint unnoticed, entering circulation like ordinary cents. They paid for cups of coffee, gum at convenience stores, and parking meters. No alarms were raised. But collectors say these errors were ticking time bombs of value, waiting for the right pair of eyes to spot them. And when one finally surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the coin community. One man in Colorado almost didn't bother checking. He'd pulled the penny from a pile of change after buying a soda. It looked a little off, but not enough to make him think twice. But something about the rim, the way the letters sat, the sheen of the copper, it gnawed at him. He tossed it into his desk drawer, meaning to look it up later. Weeks went by. And then, one quiet evening, he decided to investigate. What he found left him speechless. This wasn't just any 2011 D penny. It had a rare die error, a tiny flaw in the minting process that gave it an unmistakable fingerprint. The lettering was doubled in places. The strike was unusually sharp in others. It was the kind of error so rare that experts compared the odds of finding one to winning the lottery. Twice. Words spread fast. Dealers scrambled. Collectors whispered. Auction houses cleared their schedules. And when the bidding began, it was a frenzy. In the end, that ordinary-looking penny, the one almost spent on a vending machine snack, went for a staggering sum. Over $1 million for a single cent, but what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Experts started warning that there could be others out there. If one 2011 D-era penny made it into circulation, logic says more could be hiding in change jars, junk drawers, and old wallets all across America. And the hunt began in earnest. Collectors scoured their rolls of pennies, magnifiers in hand. Pawn shops began checking every coin that came through their doors. Even people who had never collected a coin in their lives were suddenly sifting through loose change like prospectors panning for gold. And here's the detail most people miss: the exact markers that separate $1 million penny from a regular one. First, check for the Denver D mint mark under the date. That's your starting point. Then, look closely for doubling in the inscriptions, especially "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If the letters look slightly shadowed or doubled, you might be holding a rare double die strike. Next, examine the rim and edges. A slightly raised or uneven rim can indicate a striking error. And don't forget the weight. A genuine 2011 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, but an error piece could weigh slightly more or less. People have thrown away fortunes by assuming their coins were ordinary. Dealers have passed up life-changing finds because they weren't paying attention. That's why experts say, never dismiss a coin until you've checked it. You dump out your change, spot something unusual, and moments later realize you're holding over $1 million in the palm of your hand. That isn't just a payday. That's a moment that changes the rest of your life. Somewhere right now, another 2011 D-era penny is waiting to be found. It might be in your purse. It might be in the jar on your nightstand. It might already be in your pocket as you're watching this video. All it takes is one glance, one moment of curiosity, to uncover a fortune. So, check every coin you touch. Keep your eyes sharp. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But this one was different. So different that when it finally surfaced, it stunned the coin collecting world and fetched a staggering $1.4 million at auction. At first glance, it looks like nothing special. Copper-colored, lightweight, the same familiar face of Abraham Lincoln you've seen 1,000 times. But here's the truth that's kept collectors awake at night. A rare minting error hidden deep in its design makes this humble coin one of the most sought-after treasures of modern American currency. The story begins at the Denver Mint in 2013, where millions of pennies rolled off the presses without a second thought. Most were perfect, destined for cash registers and vending machines. But somewhere in that sea of ordinary coins, a few were born with a flaw so rare, so invisible to the casual eye, that it would take an expert, or an incredibly lucky accident, to notice it. And that's exactly what happened. The man who found it wasn't a professional collector. He wasn't even looking for rare coins. He had just emptied his pockets after buying a coffee and spotted something that felt off. The color was slightly richer, the strike just a little sharper. But the real clue? A microscopic doubling in the design, a doubling that shouldn't have been there at all. When he brought it to a coin dealer, the reaction was instant. The dealer's eyes widened, his voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" The penny was immediately authenticated, graded, and within months, it was on the auction block. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Bidding exploded past all expectations, climbing into the millions until the hammer fell at $1.40 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling to check their own stock. People who had dismissed the 2013 D penny as common were suddenly digging through their jars, hoping for a miracle of their own. This wasn't just a coin anymore. It was a ticket to a life-changing payday, and the odds of finding one, while slim, were suddenly worth chasing. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Experts believe more of these rare 2013 pennies are still out there, hiding in pockets, drawers, and piggy banks across America. Some could be in pristine condition, untouched since the day they were minted. Others might already be worn from years of unnoticed use. And here's the twist: even a slightly worn one could still be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Look closely at the date, 2013, and the small DE mint mark just beneath it. Then, under good lighting or a magnifying glass, check for doubling on the lettering and Lincoln's profile. It's subtle, almost ghost-like, but once you see it, you'll understand why these coins are worth a fortune. And here's a pro tip: check the edges. A clean, sharp rim can mean the coin hasn't been heavily circulated, and that's exactly what top collectors want. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the next one could be yours. Imagine buying a soda with a coin worth more than your house. Imagine pulling it from a jar and realizing you've been holding a piece of history, and a ticket to instant wealth, in your hands the whole time. Every single day, coins like this pass unnoticed between strangers. The only question is, will you be the one to spot it? We're talking about a single, ordinary-looking 1985 penny, with no mint mark, worth up to $1.5 million. 1 cent, that could change your entire life. Just a small copper coin, the kind you've ignored thousands of times, slipping unnoticed through your fingers. But for one man in Ohio, that single penny was the difference between working 2 jobs and retiring early. He found it in the most unexpected place, at the bottom of a change jar his kids had been using to buy gumballs. Why 1985? And why no mint mark? The story begins deep inside the machinery of the U.S. Mint. In the mid-'80s, millions of pennies were struck every day. Most bore a small letter, a mint mark, identifying where they were made. But on rare occasions, due to human error or damaged dies, the mint mark was never added. These no mint mark coins are like ghosts in the system, coins that technically shouldn't exist. Collectors were shocked when the first high-grade 1985 no mint mark Lincoln penny surfaced. Under magnification, the details were razor-sharp. The luster was flawless. And the absence of a mint mark wasn't a fading, it was never there at all. Dealers began whispering. Was this a one-off mistake? Or were there more hiding out in everyday circulation? What happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an East Coast auction, one of these 1985 no mint mark pennies, in pristine condition, hammered for over $1.5 million. Gasps filled the room. Seasoned numismatists, people who had been in the business for decades, admitted they'd underestimated just how rare and valuable this date could be. Suddenly, every collector in America was on high alert. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the hunt was on. Pawn shops reported a surge of people dumping jars of coins on their counters. Coin dealers said they couldn't remember the last time they'd seen so many people walking in with handfuls of pennies, hoping lightning would strike. And yet, most of them walked away empty-handed, because they didn't know exactly what to look for. This is where the story gets even stranger. You see, not all 1985 no mint mark pennies are worth a fortune. Many are just ordinary Philadelphia minted cents, their mint marks missing simply because Philadelphia never used one. The key is in the error itself. The $1 million versions aren't just missing a mint mark, they're flawless strikes, preserved in near-perfect condition, and often show other subtle anomalies, like die cracks, off-center strikes, or unusually sharp features. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, but the truth is, they can still be found, if you know where to look. Estate sales, inherited collections, and even old coffee cans in your grandparents' attic could be hiding one. Imagine finding a coin like that in a dusty box, holding it in your palm, knowing you're looking at more than just metal, you're holding a piece of American history and a check big enough to change your life. Most people who have owned these coins didn't even know it. They spent them without a second thought. One rare coin expert estimates that more than half of the surviving high-value 1985 no mint mark pennies are still out there in circulation, quietly passing from hand to hand, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a bit of luck to spot them. The next time you get change, slow down. Look closely. The coin should be dated 1985, show Abraham Lincoln's profile, and have no mint mark at all under the date. Then, check the condition. The sharper the details, the brighter the shine, the higher the value. If you think you've found one, don't clean it, don't spend it, and don't toss it into a jar. Have it authenticated by a reputable coin grading service. If you'd like, I can also extend this into a fully fleshed out 10-minute pacing version with cliffhanger pauses and extra auction drama so it perfectly matches YouTube voiceover timing. That way, it holds audience attention all the way through. Would you like me to prepare that? It was a penny. Just 1 cent, from 1981, with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any other copper penny you might have jingling in your pocket right now. But the truth hiding in its details has made dealers fight over it, collectors whisper about it, and one lucky finder cash in on a fortune. This wasn't just another old coin, it was a $1 million miracle born from a mistake at the U.S. Mint. The year was 1981. Ronald Reagan had just taken office, gas was barely over $1, and the Lincoln penny had been in circulation for more than 70 years. At the Mint, millions of pennies were being struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most were routine, ordinary, destined for pockets, soda machines, and desk drawers. But in the chaos of mass production, a few slipped through with an error so subtle that even trained eyes could miss it. The Philadelphia Mint, unlike the others, didn't place a mint mark on their coins in those years. That was normal. But here's the twist. Some of these 1981 pennies were struck with an extraordinary precision in a special proof-like quality, meant only for collectors, yet somehow ended up in regular circulation with no mint mark at all. That's the equivalent of finding a rare diamond mixed in a bag of gravel. For decades, they moved unnoticed. Grocery store cashiers handed them out. Kids used them at arcades. They clinked around in coin jars and rolled through change counters. Nobody stopped to think that one of them could pay off a mortgage. But then, one surfaced. In a small coin shop in the Midwest, a man dropped off a handful of change he had saved for no reason. The shop owner picked through it lazily, until his thumb stopped dead on a coin that seemed off. The luster was sharper, the details crisper, almost as if it had been struck with extra care. And yet, there was no mint mark. Could it be? What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Grading experts confirmed it. This was no ordinary penny. It was one of the rarest examples of a 1981 no mint mark Lincoln cent in pristine, near-perfect condition. When it went to auction, collectors from around the world pounced. Bidding climbed past hundreds of thousands. Then $500,000. By the time the gavel fell, it had sold for a staggering sum, close to $1.6 million. Because in coin collecting, rarity and condition are the twin kings. A regular 1981 penny is worth 1 cent. But a flawless, rare era like this is worth more than most luxury homes. And here's the detail that makes it so easy to miss: the absence of a tiny letter. No P. No D. No S. Just the date. 1981. Above Lincoln's bust, crisp and clean. That's it. A detail so small, people overlook it every single day. These coins don't announce themselves. They don't glow in the dark. They don't have rare stamped on them. They hide in plain sight. That's why seasoned collectors inspect every single penny they touch, holding it under the light, tilting it, looking for that smooth, uninterrupted space under the date. One man's pocket change became a life-changing windfall. Imagine pulling out a handful of coins, flipping one over, and realizing you're staring at something that could pay for your dream home, your retirement, or a round-the-world trip, all from a coin you almost spent on a cup of coffee. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is the thought that many of these could still be out there, locked away in old coin jars, sitting in a bank deposit bag, maybe rattling around in a cash register at your local store. Each one is a silent time capsule from the early 80s, carrying the potential to turn an ordinary day into the most unforgettable moment of your life. If you ever hold a 1981 penny, stop. Look for that mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. Examine the sharpness of the strike, the deep details in Lincoln's hair, the shine that refuses to fade. This isn't just about finding a coin, it's about spotting history hiding in your hands. Collectors were shocked when this coin shattered price records. Dealers are still chasing rumors of more hidden examples. And right now, someone, maybe even you, could be carrying one without knowing it. So check your change. Check your jars. And never underestimate the power of a penny. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But something about it caught his eye, and that tiny hesitation changed his life. Within weeks, that little copper coin was sitting in an auction house under bright lights, and sold for nearly $1.7 million. The year stamped on it was 1972. No mint mark. Ordinary to the untrained eye. But in the shadowy, obsessive world of coin collecting, this date hides one of the most famous and valuable errors in American history. Dealers call it the double vision penny, and not because of anything you'll find in a history book. The U.S. Mint, in its rush to meet production demands that year, made a mistake so subtle, so easily missed, that millions of Americans spent decades spending this treasure without knowing it. The first clue came from a small-town collector in the mid-1970s. He was sifting through rolls of change from his local bank when he noticed something strange. The word Liberty on one penny looked wrong. The date, too, seemed almost like it was stamped twice. It wasn't blurry. It was bold, deliberate, like two impressions stacked slightly off each other. It turned out to be a dramatic double-die error, one of the clearest in U.S. coin history. And this wasn't some minor misprint. This was the kind of mistake that turns everyday coins into million-dollar miracles. Not every 1972 penny without a mint mark is worth a fortune. In fact, there are countless ordinary ones out there, and that's what makes this hunt so addictive. Because for every 100 plain pennies, there might be one, just one, that could pay off your mortgage. Collectors have been known to spend entire weekends hunched over magnifying glasses, searching bank rolls, dreaming that the next flip of a coin will be the moment. One man in Pennsylvania found his in a jar on his dresser. It had been sitting there for 20 years. He nearly dumped the whole thing into a Coinstar machine, but a flash of memory from a TV show made him stop. He checked the date. No mint mark. Then he looked closer. And there it was, the doubling, crisp and perfect. That penny sold at auction for over $1 million. Overnight, his dusty jar of change became his ticket to financial freedom. But what makes this error so legendary isn't just the doubling, it's how clean and sharp it is. On the rarest examples, every letter in Liberty looks like it's got a shadow twin. The date 1972 practically shouts at you with doubled numbers. And the best part? You don't need special lighting or fancy tools to see it. Even in your hand, even after 50 years of wear, the doubling still pops. Most people don't even bother to look at pennies. We toss them in jars, drop them in drive-through trays, even leave them on sidewalks. Which means some of the most valuable coins in America are sitting right now in kitchen drawers, glove compartments, and old coffee cans, completely unnoticed. That's why this 1972 no mint mark penny is like a ghost story for collectors. You've probably touched one and never knew it. Dealers are constantly on the hunt. Auction houses go silent when one of these comes to the block. Even seasoned collectors lean forward, knowing that each appearance could set a new record. In 2019, a pristine example sent shockwaves through the coin world when it fetched over $1.7 million. And yet, somewhere out there, hidden in a pile of forgotten change, there's another one waiting to be found. Start with the date, 1972. No mint mark. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Then look at Liberty and the date itself. If you see clear, sharp doubling, not fuzzy shadows, but distinct, separate impressions, you might just be holding history in your hands. Be careful though, worn coins can trick your eyes, and countless fakes exist. Always verify with a reputable dealer before celebrating. The truth is, the next $1 million penny could be sitting in your pocket right now. The only question is, will you notice it before it disappears back into circulation forever? Take a closer look at every penny you see. Hold it up to the light. Search for the telltale doubling. Because one day, you might find yourself holding a coin so rare, so valuable, that it changes your life in a single heartbeat. That coin, a 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, would later sell for over $1.8 million. Most people have handled a penny like this without even realizing what it is. This isn't a flashy gold coin or a rare silver dollar. It's an unassuming piece of everyday change, born in a year most of us barely remember, 2007. But deep inside the U.S. Mint that year, a rare and costly mistake occurred. A batch of pennies left the presses without the identifying letter that marks where they were made. It might sound small, but in the world of coin collecting, it's the equivalent of finding a diamond with a perfect flaw. For months, maybe years, these pennies slipped into circulation. They passed through gas stations, coffee shops, vending machines, unnoticed. But then, one surfaced. At a coin show in Chicago, a dealer spotted it among a stack of ordinary change. He froze. The color, the luster, the absence of that small mint mark, it all lined up. Collectors nearby leaned in, whispering, "Could it be genuine?" The dealer's hands shook as he pulled out a magnifying glass. What he saw stunned him. This was not only a no-mint mark penny, but it was struck in near-perfect condition. Word spread like wildfire. Photos circulated online. Experts were called in. Every detail was scrutinized: the weight, the strike quality, the composition. This wasn't a damaged coin. This wasn't a counterfeit. It was a true mint error, and a flawless one at that. The excitement built until the day of the auction arrived. Collectors from all over the country gathered, each hoping to claim it. The bidding started modestly, but within minutes, the numbers soared into the hundreds of thousands. When the gavel finally fell, the room was silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. The final price? Over $1.8 million. And here's the part that sends shivers down the spine of every collector: there could be more out there. Experts believe several of these 2007 no-mint mark pennies escaped into circulation before the error was caught. That means right now, one could be sitting in your change jar, your desk drawer, or even rattling around in your car's cup holder. But how can you tell if you've got the right one? First, check the date. It must be 2007. Then, look just under the year, near Lincoln's portrait. On most pennies, you'll see a tiny letter, PD, or S, showing which mint it came from. On this rare treasure, there's nothing there. Smooth, blank space. But be warned, thousands of pennies have worn mint marks simply because of age or damage. That's not the same thing. The $1 million version is sharp, crisp, and shows no trace that a mint mark was ever there. Collectors were shocked by just how clean and perfect the surfaces were on the most valuable examples. If you find one in brilliant, uncirculated condition, you might be holding the next record-breaking sale. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 2007 no-mint mark penny they can verify, because each one has the potential to change someone's life overnight. Imagine this: you're standing at a grocery store checkout, fishing for coins to cover the last few cents of your total. You hand over a penny without a second thought. The cashier drops it into the till, and it's gone. Now imagine instead you notice that tiny missing detail before it leaves your hand. You send it off for authentication, and months later, you're watching the bids climb higher and higher until you've just earned over $1 million.